to have the findings of the Arms Procurement Commission reviewed and set aside. The hearing is due to commence at the High Court in Pretoria this morning. The two applicants say the Seriti Commission of Inquiry failed in its mandate to probe if there was corruption in the multi-million rand arms deal. For more on this story, we're joined now by SABCNEWS editor Njanji Chauke, who covered the inquiry extensively and as a specialist correspondent a few years ago. The Seriti Commission has now come back to haunt us, the outcomes thereof. What are your thoughts, having covered it so much?
Yeah, I mean, this was going to happen anyway. You'll recall that when the Seriti Commission of Inquiry was investigating these allegations of corruption, impropriety, and fraud in the multi-million rand arms deal, there were those friends of the court, people used to come to the court, those civil rights organizations who say that the commission was not investigating the arms deal properly.
Yeah.
You'll remember that the commission was set up by the former President Jacob Zuma in 2011, and then after being set up in 2011, the inquiry only started in 2013. Remember that I used to stay in Pretoria covering that inquiry between 2013 and 2015. And
outcomes coming out in 2016.
Yeah, the findings were made in 2016, and basically the major finding was that there was no corruption in the 1999.
No evidence.
Yeah, no evidence of corruption in the 1999 arms deal. And you know, the significance of this finding is that there is now a link between the findings of the Seriti Commission and what we've been seeing happening in KwaZulu-Natal in the case of the former President Jacob Zuma. You've heard some of the submissions that they have been made.
Yeah.
The Pietermaritzburg High Court was that I've been exonerated by the Seriti Commission. So you can see where this case is going.
Professor Figeni was saying earlier also with the Thales submission to that particular case, saying that some of the people that have been named have now passed away. A case in point for the African National Congress could be the former Minister Modise.
Yes, yeah, it's quite damning. I mean, that now we're seeing these two organizations going ahead with the case, and it remains to be seen what kind of evidence of corruption are they going to submit in this two-day hearing. But what is concerning is that a lot of money was spent in the inquiry itself. You know, in South Africa, we're having so many inquiries. The Seriti Commission itself, at first there were three presiding officers, judges that were sitting in that inquiry, and finally we had two that sat through the inquiry for 3 years. And not mentioning only judges, there were evidence leaders. These people get paid a lot of money to come and represent the different organizations per day.
Take us back to your experience. What was it like? Which testimony was more outstanding for you? One of the testimonies that was looked forward to was the one by Paul Hoffman, the one by former President Thabo Mbeki. Which testimonies just really stuck with you in terms of their content? Yeah,
for me, it was to hear evidence by some of the former politicians. We saw the former Finance Minister Trevor Manuel was there. The former President Thabo Mbeki, you'll recall the much talked about middleman Fana Hlongwane.
Yep, everybody wanted to see what he looks like.
He was also there. And then also the evidence by the whistleblowers, some of the major whistleblowers themselves that were there, Patricia de Lille. Some of the people that used to stay here in South Africa have since moved to the UK. They had to come back and give some of the evidence. But also the major thing for me was to get into the world of arms procurement, the amount of money involved, you know, why South Africa needed the arms. So many people were asking, why as South Africa did we need the arms? What are we using them for? Yeah. Are we preparing for war? Ever since we acquired these arms, what have we used them for? Have we ever been threatened as South Africa?
You say that in your experience, so much money was spent on this exercise. I remember at the time there were concerns that there were mountains of documents that were generated from it. And here now comes Corruption Watch and Right to Know saying it wasn't sufficient. Do you agree with them?
Well, you know what, I cannot give a view like that. It's
Yeah.
up to the kind of evidence that's going to be presented in court. And then we're having
But
our...
what do you think was missing in the testimony and in the evidence given there?
Yes, what we saw there, it was mainly allegations that were made, but we didn't have the exact paper trail that was provided to the court. So maybe these organizations, as they go back to court, they will be providing this paper trail. If there are any tapes that were recorded, someone receiving money, they'll probably provide tangible evidence. So it remains to be seen as they go to court today and tomorrow, what kind of new evidence are they going to provide. There are also books that have been written about...
Andrew Feinstein wrote one of them.
Andrew Feinstein wrote a book, and other key people that were also involved have written books about the arms deal as well. Because, you know, the arms deal is something that's going to stay with us for a long time. My grandchildren will be paying for these arms that have been for the effects. I mean, when we started procuring these arms, I think the amount involved was about 29 billion or so.
Then.
Back then.
Yeah.
And then now that amount has since skyrocketed. So it's something that is going to have a domino effect.
Just take us back to that time in 2016 when the report came out, and your sense of the multiple stakeholders, the community of people that were interested in this conversation, how they were feeling about the Seriti outcome.
They were very disappointed about the outcome of the Seriti Commission, labeling the report as a whitewash, you know, that they didn't interview some of the relevant people, they didn't use some of the evidence provided, you know, they didn't call some of the key witnesses that were going to pinpoint to some of this corruption that allegedly took place. So it will be interesting going forward to see what will the courts find. And also, you know, as I said earlier, that this case is directly or indirectly linked to the one happening in the Pietermaritzburg High Court involving the former President Jacob Zuma, because a submission has been made to say, I've been exonerated by the Seriti Commission.
As a journalist, did it strengthen your craft?
Yes, you know, covering because I remember before the arms deal, I even visited countries like Germany, where they were putting together some of these arms. I got more interested in the world of arms. You know, as a reporter myself, I always, when there's a conflict somewhere in the world, I remember I was in Iraq, when just before the war broke out, I was there. So I've always been interested in that kind of reportage. So I suppose we'll have to wait and see what the outcomes of the court are today. Njanji Chauke, thank you so much for talking to us today. That's our editor, Njanji Chauke.